It's our go-to spot every third Wednesday of the month. And yes, it's a new year, a new beginning for everybody. And we've got just the right topic to start this new year for everyone. Welcome to our monthly coffee chat, guys. My name is Dexter. I'll be your host today. And of course, we are here at the coffee chat that we host again every third Wednesday of the month, where we're all about making your life easier and better. And these sessions are just for you. Today, we've got a fantastic guest, Leah Nichaman, the brain behind everyday money management. And with over 16 years as a daily money manager, Leah's got the lowdown on navigating the financial landscape, especially for seniors and busy folks. And of course, that trickles down to the family members, right? So here's the thing. Leah's not just a pro in the money game, she's also a community superhero. So from volunteering as a Social Security Representative Payee to offering pro bono services, she's making a real impact. And of course, she's honored us with her presence today. So grab your coffees, get comfy, and let's dive right in into everyday money management with Leah Nichaman. Leah, stage is yours.
All right. Thank you, Dexter. And thank you, Barbara and Visiting Angels, for having me today. I think this is going to be a fun topic. And I want to say, Dexter, that's the best introduction I ever had. It's great, very theatrical, and I appreciate it. So today I'm going to tell you a little bit about some tips for sort of getting more on top of your finances and getting more organized and either saving yourself money or stopping yourself from wasting money, etc. If you have a question, just pop right in. And I can't see you, so just turn on your mic and say I have a question so that I will stop. And if you put something in the chat, Dexter will let me know that you have a question, because I prefer to make it as much as possible a conversation. So I'm happy to answer your questions as we go. So I am the owner of Everyday Money Management. We are a daily money management firm. And at the end of the presentation, I'm going to tell you what a daily money manager does. And we have a team. There are 18 of us. We are mostly in the Metro Washington area, and we also have a small branch in Western Massachusetts. So, and I can talk more about that when we get to it. First, I actually want to start with a little story. This is a very true story. This is about me sitting down to update my bookkeeping, my personal bookkeeping, I use Quicken for the end of the year, because I need to get some information out for my taxes. And we all know that tax season is coming. And tax season is usually the time when most people go, oh, I wish I had been more organized about this. Now I wouldn't be scrambling to go find this information, et cetera. So this is a really good time to think about what your organizational system is around your paperwork and around your files and your accounts, et cetera. And to sort of put that in place and clean up 2023 so that you can, really move into 2024. So the story basically is that I'm sitting down to do my Quicken, and I see that there's a charge for $29.99. And at first I don't recognize it. And then I realized it was actually an exercise app that I signed up for in October. And I thought to myself, I'm not sure if I've used this app. So then I start counting $29.99, October, November, December. I've already wasted $90, right? Wasted $90 not using something that I signed up for. And I think this is pretty common that it's very easy to sign up for things like on our phone. You just have to double click and voila, Apple Wallet pays for it, and then we may not use it, or we may not use it enough, or we may just decide we don't want it or need it anymore, and we never cancel, and we end up wasting a lot of money. So so I had a decision to make. Am I going to keep it and use it, or am I going to cancel? But it's that kind of thing that sort of made me go, oh, I wish I had been paying better attention. back in November and noticed this and just made my decision then before I wasted $90. So hopefully I'll give you some tips today that will help you to not waste your hard-earned money. Okay. The first one is the one I was just talking about. Look at your statements. Most people do not look at their statements very much. And one way to make it as easy as possible is to not have a lot of statements. So don't have 10 different checking accounts and 10 different credit cards. No matter what values you get from the credit cards, if you're going to, and especially if you're going to credit card hop in order to try to get, 0% for a while, et cetera, do it in such a way so that you really only have a couple of credit cards, let's say, that are active at any time, so that you only have a couple of statements to check. But most of us tend to have one checking account, and most regular folks, one checking account and maybe 2 or 3 credit cards, maybe 2 credit cards and that are sort of, you use it anywhere, and then one that's more like a store card maybe. So keep the number of accounts that you're managing to a minimum. But then when you're looking at them, just eyeball them. Just look over and go, oh yeah, I recognize this, I recognize that. If you don't want to keep extensive books, actual bookkeeping and use Quicken or QuickBooks or Excel. Some people really like to do that kind of thing, and that's great. But if that's not how you want to spend your precious time on earth, is keeping books, you don't have to. But the most important thing is to just eyeball those statements. So when you get a message from, let's say, Truist Bank that says your statement is ready to view, take a few minutes and view it, so that you can see whether or not there's either something that you did that you don't want there or something fraudulent that may have been happening. And part of the reason you want to check for fraudulent things is because most banks have a time limit for restitution. It's often 60 days or 90 days. They say, let us know if you see something that looks like fraud. And within that time period, and then we will make you whole. We'll investigate it, and if it is fraud, they'll give you the money back. But they may not. If you wait a whole year, they may not give you the money back. They may give you 3 months of the money back, but they may, or the vendor also. Vendors, if you call a vendor and say, I didn't sign up for this, give me my money back, some of them have rules that they can only give you 2 or 3 months worth of your money back. So don't let that thing go on too long before you catch it. And one really great way, because we're, in the technological world, is to set up alerts. So most banks and most credit cards have a place where you can say, let me know if there's a transaction over $300, let's say, or let me know if my balance is getting, below $100, or let me, there's various kinds of alerts, and they'll just send you a text in real time that says, oh, there was just a transaction for, $1,200 at the Apple store, and it wasn't you, right? So that's probably somebody stole your information. So it's really good to get into the habit of just, you don't have to memorize your transactions. It's just being willing to check and being willing to be pinged by your bank, your institution, the financial institution, to tell you that something doesn't seem quite right. All right, tip number 2. This is also more about knowing what you spend. So if I had a nickel for every time a financial advisor said to me, I wish my clients could tell me how much they spend. And that's whether wealthy, very wealthy people to not wealthy people at all along the spectrum. Most of us know how much we make. We know what's coming in general. But if somebody said, and on average, how much do you spend? Very few of us have that idea in our head. And one way that you can get to know it is by, of course, looking at your statements and, of course, keeping track. So if you are inclined to keep track, you will benefit from that. And when I say keep track, I mean you can use Quicken or QuickBooks or Excel, as I mentioned, spreadsheets, but also almost every bank nowadays has the the ability for you to keep track of what you're spending. In other words, you can go into your transactions and you can give it a category. And you can say, oh, this was dining out, and this was clothing, and this was education, etc. And then most of them will allow you to do one of these fancy little pie charts or a whole bunch of other kinds of charts and reports to show yourself what it is that you're spending. Now, why is it important to know what you're spending? Well, we all know the obvious reason. You really want to try hard not to spend more than you make. But in addition to that, I think it really comes down to intentional spending. In other words, how do you want to be spending your money? We all have so many choices. Are you a person who likes collectibles and you want to spend your disposable income, buying little Hummel figures? Or are you a person who likes to go on a trip and would rather have an experience? Are you a person for whom food is really important and you buy all your food at a fancy place? Or are you're a bargain shopper when it comes to food and you're getting everything at Costco, right? So everybody has their own, how should I say, values around money, and none of them are right or wrong. And so one way of knowing, is my spending in line with my values? Maybe at the end of the year, you want to see how much money did you give away this year? And if you've been keeping track of your charitable spending, then you can see, is that in line with my values? I gave away this percentage of my income. I mean, some people already tithe. They know they're going to give away 10%, but some people don't. And maybe they do have an idea of how much of their income they want to give away. So there's a lot of great reasons to keep track in one way or another, even if it's a rough keeping track, even not to the penny. And the other reason is if you are in one of the stages in life, let's say where you're early on in your life and you're living in an apartment and you want to buy a house maybe, and you need to get a sense of, am I spending my money in such a way that I have left over to save for my down payment, that kind of thing. Or if I were to put an offer on a house, would I be able to manage this mortgage payment? So knowing what you get in, both gross and net, and then how you're spending it would allow you then to make changes in how you're using the money in order to allow you to do the next thing that you want to do with your money. Any questions so far?
Leah,
Okay.
not a question, but a quick comment. That helps
Yes.
also to build your credit score and your credit rating as well, right?
Thank you. Yes, so definite, well, on time, 12 months of on-time payments is one of the best things you can do for your credit, especially if you've had some trouble in the past, is really buckle down and automate your payments or figure out a way so that you won't forget, you won't come up short, so that you can always make the payments on your obligations. I'm not talking about the discretionary stuff that, those where you decide to go out to dinner. I'm talking about your obligations, that your phone, your cell phone, your car loan, your mortgage, your credit card, whatever it is, that's what the credit bureau is tracking. And you want to be sure that you make those payments on time. So definitely getting yourself on some sort of a system and looking at to see how you're doing is a really good way to make sure that your credit will improve over time.
I have a question.
Yes.
Okay. I used to do this by hand and that became pretty labor intensive. But if you use the bank's online features, are there any dangers because it is an online feature, a budget feature?
I don't think there's any, I mean, already the bank is showing you online what you're spending. So the fact that you categorize it into different categories, I don't think there's much danger there. To be honest, the people who are mining our data are mostly looking at our shopping habits and our viewing habits. And anytime you go online, when you go on Instagram, when you go on Facebook, when you go shopping at Amazon, data is being collected about you. That's way more useful to them, right, than how you categorize transactions and what your budget is. at your bank site. So I would say in terms of the level of, how dangerous that is, I don't think that information about your budgeting is very as interesting to the people who collect this data. That's my opinion. I'm not a cybersecurity expert, but that's my gut feeling about it. Let me also tell you one drawback of using your bank or your credit card company instead of Quicken, QuickBooks, or Excel, or there's one caveat, but the drawback is that you're only getting, when you use your bank, you're only seeing the transactions at that bank. But unless you have your credit card at that bank and all your accounts are at one bank, you're only going to see a snapshot. These other programs, Quicken, QuickBooks, Excel, you're essentially aggregating. You're taking the data from all the institutions where you have accounts, and it's all coming into one place. And then you can see where you spent your money across all payment methods, if you will. Now, some places like I know USAA and quite a few others I've seen where they'll say, bring in non-bank accounts. So sometimes you can import the data from an account at another institution into the one where you want to keep track. So it can be done. I've done it a few times, I think, over the years for clients, but I haven't done a lot of it because we use Quicken in our business to manage our clients' finances because we see all of the information across all the accounts. Okay, this is my favorite. And if you go to our website, you're going to see this on there too. This is what we call the whole life list. And this is a big project if you haven't done it ever. And I would say that if you are, older people definitely need this, older as in the kinds of folks that Visiting Angels takes care of, but even younger people need this. And that's because none of us knows what's going to happen to us, right? So God forbid something happens to me. I'm 60, right? I wouldn't call myself old, but I'm 60 and I'm the one in my family who takes care of a lot of stuff, right? And if I were to suddenly die or become incapacitated, yes, my husband is a smart man and I'm sure he would figure it out, but he would have to figure out a lot of things during a very stressful, grief-laden time, right? And it would make it a lot harder because when you're suffering from intense grief, your brain does not work nearly the way it did before. So it's so important to somewhere get a binder, get a notebook. You can do it online, but you definitely want to password protect something like this. If you put it online, if you put it in your Google Docs, you want a password on this document because this document will be the keys to the kingdom, right? This is where you write down everything about what accounts you have, where they are. You might keep your passwords, which I do. I keep a whole life list, but I keep my passwords in a password manager. So I do have those two things separate. But the list of all of you might put in especially if you have a lot of medical, who are all your doctors? What medications do you take? Who takes care of everything in your house? If the refrigerator breaks, who should be called? All those kinds of things. How all the household and personal financial management stuff would go in there. And you see, we've broken it because the job to make this list is so overwhelming. We broke it down so that if you want to follow this path with us, which you can actually sign up on our website. It's called the Whole Life List Challenge or something like that. And you can put in your email and then every month you'll get I think 2 emails, and one of them is at the beginning of the month. It says, this month, we're talking about bills, budget, subscriptions, and memberships in June, and then it'll give you some tips for the kinds of information that you should be collecting on your list. And we don't send you the list. You can make the list any way you want. Our list is in Word, the one that we use for our clients. And we also have an Excel spreadsheet that we use for some parts of the information, but for the most part, it's in Word. And that's to keep it simple, so that it tends to be a type of thing that most people know how to use a word processor, and you can design it and format it any way you want. But basically the key is we give you some tips as to what kinds of information you want to record. So for example, let's say well, I'll pick one that most people don't want to do, which is August, final wishes. So we do this at a time. Final wishes often come up often around holiday time, sometimes, especially if you're together with somebody who's older and getting toward the end of their life. But final wishes is one of those things where if you have specific ideas about, what it is that you want, if you should die, or you really want to know what it is that your spouse wants in case they should die, this is the time to talk about that kind of thing. And then you might put it down. I want to be buried here. I want this music to be played at my funeral, whatever it is. And again, this is completely voluntary. Some people skip over that and they probably don't do it. And if you don't have a pet, you're not going to fill in things about your pets, but people sometimes die or we had a situation where my sister adopted a dog because he was neglected, because the person had dementia and wasn't taking care, and then they were moved to an assisted living and something needed to happen to the dog, right? And so and she adopted it. But if that woman had been able to make a plan for that dog and say, if something happens to me, this is who has agreed to take the dog, or this is what my dog needs, and this is his vet, et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, there's all sorts of information that you might put in there. And another thing, you might photocopy the contents of your wallet. Now, when I say photocopy, and that's if you lose your wallet, so that you can, then call those companies and say, I've lost my wallet. If you do it, please don't do it at Staples or at FedEx office, because there's a memory inside those photocopy machines. So don't do it in a public copier. It would be better, believe it or not, for you to take a picture of it, upload the picture somewhere that's secure, and delete it off your phone if that's how you want to go about doing it. So there are ways to or if you have a copier at home, like your printer has you can open it up and put cards down on the glass. That's a more secure way of doing it than at a public copier. And then once people have this information, they always want to know, where should I store this? Well, ideally, maybe, you would put it in a fireproof safe in your house. Not everybody has a fireproof safe, and some people may not want to get a fireproof safe for this purpose. I actually don't keep mine in a fireproof safe. I am a fan of the in plain sight version of doing things, where I have it in a notebook that's very nondescript, and I don't have it labeled, Leah's family's important information. I don't have it labeled. And it's actually like a zipper binder. And because I consider this grab and go information, if we have a national emergency or weather emergency and people say, you must evacuate now, it's sort of a grab and go binder. And what I put in that binder, in addition to my whole life list, is I have like a 3-hole punch plastic folder, and one for each member of the family and the cat, right? And in it, I have our original key documents: birth certificate, Social Security card, rabies vaccination card, all the things that the originals of things that you wouldn't want to lose if you had a fire in your house, or if you needed to evacuate and you needed the originals. Now, again, in the technological world, many of us have digital copies of these things, and a digital copy is good most of the time. But you do need to hang on to your originals, and a passport, being able to go right away and be able to say, is my passport getting close to expiring, right? Where it is. You don't have to go looking for it, right? Because it's in your folder, your binder, or whatever. So anyway, in plain sight, and we just keep it on a bookshelf somewhere. And if a thief comes into my house, that's not what they're looking for anyway. They're looking for electronics and jewelry. So, okay, moving on. Tip 4, passwords. Passwords, the bane of our existence, right? Passwords actually are starting to go the way of all things, but they haven't gone away yet. We tend to have now more biometrics, right? You can touch your fingertip, you can use your face. And so those are very safe ways, relatively speaking, of getting into your important things. But we do have a lot of passwords. And the key about passwords is that if you're going to write down the password, keep in mind you want to write down, and when I say write, I mean it could be handwritten list, which is very secure if you think about it, especially if you hide it somewhere. Or it could be you have typed it. The key is not just username and password. You want username, password, security questions. If there's a PIN, a 4-digit PIN or something. What email address is this one connected to, right? Especially if you have multiple email addresses, because again, if something happens to you and somebody else, like your husband, your wife, your sister, wants to get into there to help manage your affairs, they would need to know, if they have to reset the password, they need to know what email address it's going to. So, and then it would be important for you to share the email password with a trusted person. Now, again, people will decide at what point in their life they want to share their email password, but we try to get all of our seniors, if they're using email, to give somebody, us or somebody else, their email password to make sure that somebody could get in if necessary. And you're going to share, by the way, you're going to share your whole life list with a trusted person, right? The person who's going to be the one to step in, let's say. And then most cybersecurity experts that I have heard talk in recent years really prefer that people use an online password vault, as like 1Pass, LastPass, Dashlane. There's a bunch of them out there. You can use the keeper, the password keeper, on your phone. Again, you have to decide, how much you trust those things, because I don't think anybody can tell you 100% this is safe and this isn't safe. I kind of think what we know isn't safe is to put a list on the desktop of your computer that says my passwords. And even if it doesn't, you could call it, recipe for chocolate cake, but the scammers who are looking, if they get into your computer, they're looking for things that look like Social Security numbers, usernames, and passwords. And they have little computerized bots that go look for these things, even if you call it something crazy. And I had a client once, he was a citizen of the United States many, many years. He had lived here for like 40 years, but he was from Hungary originally. So he says, "It's okay, Leah, I put all my passwords in Hungarian." And I was like, great. But the scammers can get through lots of languages. They have computers so putting it in a foreign language would only deter somebody who might be sitting at your computer trying to get into your stuff. But mostly when people steal passwords, they're going to be stolen through the back door. They get into your computer and they're going to try to steal them when you're typing them or steal them out of a file on your computer. So don't keep important information on your computer unless you put a password on that file. And you can password protect a Word file. You can password protect an Excel file. You can password protect most documents these days. Question. Oh, one more thing. Passwords, another tip from the cybersecurity experts, the longer, the better. 12 characters or more. Even if they're all letters and there are no numbers, I mean, we all know even more secure is a number and a character and a capital and a lowercase, but longer is the most important thing. It takes a much longer time for a computer to crack a longer password than a shorter password. So just keep that in mind. Okay, did I go too many? Let's make sure I didn't skip one. Yeah, I didn't. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Tip 5, manage charitable giving. This is a big deal for seniors. So this is definitely one reason why I put it, because Older folks who have money tend to want to do a lot of good later in their life. And some of us who have money that we can donate also are doing stuff younger in the younger part of our lives. But the key here is when you give money, you get mail usually. So you give something to the World Wildlife Fund, and then you're going to start to get mail from Save the Elephants, Save the Lions, the local zoo. You're going to get a lot of mail because the people who there are companies that help people buy mailing lists, right? And if they know that your cause, one of your causes that is close to your heart, is animals and wild animals, etc., you will start to get mail from sort of related organizations. And the key here is if you are at all susceptible to, first of all, throw them in the trash. Toss any solicitation from a charity that you do not want to give to. And so this is a really good time of year to look back at your checkbook and your accounts and see who did I give money to and how much did I give? And make a list. Here's all the charities I gave to in 2023. And then think about what is it that I want to do in 2024 and decide. I'm not going to give to this one, or I gave to this one because it was a memorial for somebody out of town and I probably won't give to that one again. But there are some probably that you want to give to every year and decide, I'm going to give this one $10, I'm going to give this one $50, whatever it is that you want, right? And that really varies with how much money people have available to give to charity. Just be more organized and more intentional. Again, organization allows you to know what you're doing and then make an intention. I'm going to do just the same as I did last year, but I'm going to give 10% more maybe, or I'm not going to do what I did last year and I want to use my money differently. If somebody calls you on the phone asking for money, especially police and fire benevolent organizations, the benevolent organization may be a scam and it may be a real benevolent organization. But I do know that a lot of those organizations use most of the money that they get in donations to pay the people who make the phone calls and market that stuff to you. So if you have the Rockville Volunteer Fire Department I live in Rockville, and that's, and I feel very grateful for their services. It's much better for me to go directly to the firehouse or the police, organization that I'm interested in. And on their website, they have a place where you can donate to their benevolent association. So it definitely don't give money in response to a phone call ever. Or really in response to a solicitation by mail, unless it's one of your charities that you want to give to. And then, of course, for seniors, once they answer that phone and they give their credit card number to one of those organizations, Police Benevolent Association or whatever it is, then people sell their name, right? And we call that the senior sucker list. Like they're very vulnerable seniors who get calls. And if any of you are caregivers for Visiting Angels, you might have seen this before with your clients, where you are listening to them and you're hearing them start to give their credit card number over the phone, or you're seeing what they're doing. I've seen this happen. And then the caregiver knows that this is a bad thing. And she tried to stop, this happened with my client. She tried to stop my client from giving her bank account, and my client swatted her away and said, "Leave me alone. You don't know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing," when in fact, the caregiver really did know what she was doing and knew that it was the wrong thing to do. So I know it's challenging, whether you're a family member or you are a paid caregiver in the home and you're there and you're hearing it on the senior side of the conversation. My feeling is, don't be afraid to just press it. If you can, cut that phone off if you can. Don't get into a fist fight with your senior, but I'm just saying that they'll be mad at you, but then they'll be glad that you kept them from giving away their credit card or their bank account number. So It's a challenge for sure. Questions? Okay, tip 6, get rid of excess paper. And most of us have this problem, not young people. My kids do not have this problem. They probably do not save as much as they should save, whether it's digital or paper. But most of us who are, let's say, 40, 50 and above, you know, we lived in the paper world for a long time, and we have a lot of files and a lot of paper. And I would say, get rid of it. You don't need old utility bills. We actually, and I will send this along, if you guys have a way of distributing it, we have a record retention guide, and it just says, you know, how long you have to keep things. And, you know, then you could go through and, you know, a lot of times January is a month where a lot of people do clean out their files. They set up new files for the new year, let's say. And so you definitely want to get rid of old paper, but keep important things, birth certificates, death certificates, retirement related information. Maybe you joined the company when you were 20, but you're going to need the retirement information when you're 65. So some things you don't want to get rid of. So anyway, you know, and also, you know, a clear space helps with a clear mind. You know, it's just really hard to think clearly, I think, sometimes when there's a lot of clutter. So do your best to get rid of excess paper, and I will send you the guideline for that. And by the way, when you do get rid of excess paper, if it has an account number, a birth date, your name and address is pretty much public information, so I wouldn't worry about putting that in the recycle. But if it's something like a bank statement or something that has a Social Security number on it or anything like that, put it in a pile for shredding. And if there's no shredding, let's say where you work or anything like that, wait for one of those shred it days, free shred it days, community shred days. Most communities have them during the nicer weather, and keep a few boxes, and then you take it to be shredded. Okay, legal documents. I cannot stress how important it is for everyone, really everyone over the age of 18, to have at the minimum a healthcare power of attorney. In other words, somebody has to be allowed to make decisions for you if you really can't, right? So the 3 main documents that people have are a will. Not younger people don't tend to have a will yet. Powers of attorney, 2 kinds. A healthcare one, this is the person who can make decisions for my health, and a financial one. This is the person who can make decisions about my money, okay? Because you could become incapacitated at any time. Most younger people, 18-year-olds, don't tend to have a lot of money. So a lot of times they don't have that financial one. I mean, if you're a wealthy 18-year-old and you do have a lot of money in your name, then you probably want that too. Because once you're 18, the law says that nobody else can make a decision for you except for you and whoever you have appointed or the court has appointed for you. So when my kids, I have 2 kids, and when they turned 18, I had them fill out that power of attorney. And the main reason was because I didn't want them to be in a hospital, and especially if it was something mental, and have the hospital say, I know you're her mother, but I'm sorry, we can't talk to you. She's an adult, right? So just saying, I'm not a lawyer, but just as a lay person, as a mother, you know, I just think it's important that people have the right documents and that they be up to date. And most people, if you have any kind of, if you have assets, if you have money in the bank or you have property, you'll need a will to say, this is where I want my property to go. If not, the court has to do all that if you die. And 50% of Americans die without a will. 50%, that's a lot. The courts are busy. So you want to say, this is who gets my stuff, right? You can do this with a document that, if you live in Maryland, I don't know how many of you live in Maryland, and Virginia, I think, has it too. If you live in the DC area, DC, on the Attorney General's website, you can download free versions of a financial power of attorney, a healthcare power of attorney, and I think there may be one for a will too, if you want to do a simple will, okay? Now, most lawyers will tell you that it's best to have a lawyer do it. And I would say if it's not very, very simple, and I would say, yes, a lawyer is your best bet. If you've got a lot of money and you've got it in a lot of different financial institutions, et cetera, you probably want to have a lawyer look at that. And nowadays, a set of documents will cost $3,000 to $5,000 maybe for a couple, give or take. It might be a little bit more if it's a fancier law firm, a little less if it's a solo, little guy, so you can shop around and find out how much it would cost to get a lawyer to do it. But even if you take the will part aside and you just do powers of attorney, you can do it yourself from the Attorney General's website. And then you also want to know, where's the deed to my house? If you own your house outright and if you don't have a mortgage, if you own your car, where's my car title? These are things that people scrounge for when they need them and they can't find them. And then they have a delay because they have to apply to the clerk or to the Motor Vehicle Administration to get another copy. So that is time and money for all that. Okay. Then if you have appointed legal agents, that your power of attorney, we call it a power of attorney, but that's actually the name of the document. The person is called the legal agent. And if you have legal agents, the person I'm going to let make my medical decisions and the person I'm going to let make my financial decisions, you want to make sure they know where your key documents are, right? And you want them to have a copy or an original, probably an original. And the lawyer, if you do it with a lawyer, the lawyer will make several originals for you of the document that names them as the legal agent. And if you've been through this process before and you had a power of attorney, let's say, and it was your husband, now he's passed away, and you want it to be your daughter, etc., and you did a new document, write void on the old one or shred it because it's no good anymore. And there are cases, a lot of cases, where people are confused as to which is the most current document. So anyway, y'all should have a lawyer, Barbara, talk at some point about this kind of thing because I don't want to get out of my depth. But as a daily money manager, coming into people's homes and trying to help them get organized and find their documents, we find ourselves in the position sometimes of trying to give people a strong nudge to get those documents reviewed, revised, or created from the beginning if they don't have them, because it's so helpful to have that in place when there's a crisis.
Just to let you know, Leah, we had Mindy Fellington speak in September.
Good.
So you know
Okay.
Mindy. So
yes, I do know Mindy. Okay, good. Okay, last tip. Engage in safe disclosure. So we've talked about this a little bit with regard to the charity calls, but don't give out this information, your credit card number, your bank account number, your social security number, your date of birth, all those things, unless you know who is asking you. And ideally you've called, if it's on the phone, you've called them. If somebody calls you and says, we need this information, don't give it out. And actually, when I go to the doctor's office and they ask me for my driver's license number and my social security number, I actually don't put it down. I leave it blank. And it's fine because they can ask for it, but I'm not required to give it. And you know why they do that? Is so that if you don't pay the bill, they can use that information to report it to the credit agency and to send it to a collection agency, et cetera. That's what they're using that stuff for. Your doctor doesn't need your social security number. They have a medical record number for you. So I'm just saying that there are times when even people we trust are asking us for information that we don't always have to give. If you get a phone call or something in the mail, and sometimes the things in the mail look very official, and it worries a lot of seniors in particular, nobody should respond directly to those things, but if they are saying they're from a certain company, you just call the company directly and say, I got this in the mail. And they'll say, oh, that's not us. That's a scam, throw it away. Or they will say, oh, yes, we sent that to you. Okay. And I hope you know by now, the IRS will not call you on the phone. The Social Security Administration will not call you on the phone. They will send you letters. And if you owe them money, they will send you certified letters. So do not talk to anybody who says they're from the Federal Trade Commission, anything that sounds very governmental, and they called you out of the blue, likely that's a scam and they're just trying to scare you. And then this is my tip, of course, for older seniors. A lot of people hold on to their information. They're very private, and that's all good and well until you become 85 and you have the beginnings of dementia. And then you really need to share this information with, ideally, your legal agent, because if you trusted them enough to name them in that power of attorney document, you should trust them to know all about your finances. And eventually they would know anyway, especially if you move out of your home and you have to move just to some sort of a senior living facility, you are going to have to fill out a financial form. And by then you might not be able to fill it out, and your child is going to fill it out for you, and they're going to find out all about your finances. So I tend to think that finances are something that it's fine to keep them private for a long time if you want to, but you want to be sure that certainly when you get to the point where the likelihood of something happening to you is much greater, you want to make sure that somebody knows what you have and where it is, so that we're not going on a hunt. Because a lot of times we help families go on hunts for, did they have a life insurance policy, and did they have stock certificates, and where are they? And sometimes money gets left on the table because nobody could find it. And if you can't find the information, you can't cash it out and get what you would have gotten if you were the heir. So we really try to encourage seniors to be more open with a trusted person about these things. Okay, so if you do all these things, or you help your senior person to do these things, I think everybody will feel less stress, feel more in control, feel more intentional, as I said, about your money and how you're using it. And certainly for all of us, but mostly seniors, less vulnerable. We're able to withstand calls and people trying to poke at us to get us to do something, when we go, oh no, that's not I get stuff from Xfinity, but I know Xfinity is not my company. I'm a Verizon person. So I don't worry when they say, oh, your Xfinity bill is overdue. I'm like, I don't have an Xfinity bill, because I know that I don't have that. I'm not wondering, right? So the more you know about your finances, I think the less vulnerable all of us will be, to fraud. Okay, I have one more slide to show you. Okay, so I just want to say, I hope you're not too stressed out. All of these things are things that you can do a little of it, and that's better than nothing. Or you can do a lot of it, and that's better than a little of it. So do not fret and go, oh my God, I have to get everything organized. Take this whole year. It's 2024. It's the beginning of a new year. Take this whole year and, over time, try to get it organized and get it documented. And you sign up for that thing it's just everydaymoneymanagement.com. You can go on our website, go to where it says whole life list, and there's a place you can put in your email if you want to get the reminders to work on the whole life list. But I'm going to give you the laundry list of what daily money managers can do. So especially if you feel I need somebody to do a little bit of this or to get me going, or I have a senior in my life who really is not on top of things and they're very vulnerable. They may need a daily money manager to come in and sort of be their bookkeeper and help them manage their money. So most of what we're doing is managing money in and money out. So we are keeping track of the income that comes in. We're helping our client fill out any forms to make sure their income comes in, especially if they have government retirement and this and that. We're helping to pay bills, right? Make sure things get paid. We're helping with them balancing their accounts, keeping bookkeeping. We can make bank deposits. We can't take money out of the bank for the client, but we can go and put money in. Sometimes we go over their investment statements with them. Again, we're not investment advisors, but a lot of what we do is we look over in financial documents and legal documents, and if we have questions or our client has questions, like we'll know, oh, this is something that we need to go back to that professional and ask the question, so that we don't give advice that is not our specialty, right? We only try to help our clients figure out what the question should be and then help them understand the answers. This time of year, we're just about to start in with organizing tax documents, right? Because those 1099s and W-2s and whatever are going to start coming in the mail. Sometimes we'll help negotiate with our creditors. We definitely help review medical insurance claims. We help with filing a long-term care claim and filing, every month. A lot of, I don't know whether Visiting Angels does that for your clients, but a lot of home care agencies and senior living communities will do the long-term care claim filing, but sometimes we have to help if nobody else is going to do it. We definitely help cleaning out old paperwork. We'll help organize and test passwords. That's the other thing. It's like, if you haven't used a password in a long time, test it, see if it works. It might not, or it might require additional, sending the codes and all that kind of thing. We'll help you set up and maintain your paper files or your digital files, meaning, because a lot of things, we just download it from the bank. We don't print it on paper anymore. That's kind of wasteful. We definitely advocate for our clients with all the different service providers that they might have. And that includes their professional service providers, like their lawyer and their accountant and that kind of thing, but also their household service providers, everybody who is providing, the plumber, the cleaning service, caregivers, contractors, etc. We will help with payroll for household employees who are not employed by their private caregivers or nannies or gardeners for some folks. We definitely help our clients create a budget. We help them reduce their debt if we can, help them figure out what to pay and in what order. We will not take, my company does not take power of attorney or be a representative payee or a guardian for anyone, but there are a couple of, we know a couple of daily money managers and a couple of lawyers who will do that for somebody who has no family member or friend willing to do it. Some daily money managers do some property management. We do like a fraction sometimes. We definitely will help people document their property for insurance. So here's a good thing. If you own your house and you have homeowners insurance, when was the last time that you took pictures of everything in your house, just in case it burns down? So it's the easiest thing to do nowadays. You just turn on your phone on video and just walk through each room slowly and go around. And as you're going over grandma's, china cabinet, you're going to go, and this is grandma's china cabinet. It's an antique. It's from 1762 or whatever. If you know that, right, you can always make notes later on. But that's the easiest thing to do. It probably takes 20 minutes, to go through your house. And if you have some valuables, you might lay them out on a table and say, here's, my valuable Hummel figurines or whatever it is, right? So I highly recommend that you do that and hold on to that video, because you can send that to the insurance company if you have a loss, and you'll get much more money for your things, especially if they're worth, if you have a replacement value and you've made it very clear what you had and you want to replace it at the current price, you'll get more money from your insurance company. We'll help people sometimes manage projects in their home. Like, we don't do a lot of this, but I do know daily money managers who do it, which is, they're getting their kitchen remodeled, and maybe the daily money manager is going to help sort of keep all that on track, so sometimes wealthy clients of daily money managers will use them like a personal assistant, and for that kind of thing, a project of some sort. Okay, so that's lots of things that daily money managers can do, but what I was really hoping to do today was to empower you to do this stuff for yourself, because it's not rocket science. It doesn't require an expert. It requires it requires some stick-to-itiveness, I guess, and consistency to try to sort of keep at it and chip away at it until you get organized. And if you do any of that and you have a question and you're not sure, you can always reach out to me and send me an email. I think there's my email, there's my phone number. You can reach out to me and ask a question about the best way to handle something. And especially if you have a senior in your life who you are caring for, if you have a financial question, you're not sure about this or that, I'm more than happy to chat with caregivers about, what they might need to do in order to navigate some financial or legal challenge.
And that's the main reason why I wanted you to be our speaker, is the whole life list. I actually did that for my parents as a gift. So I would go back each month. I started it and broke it down each month and visited them. And, just actually it was kind of like an organizational type thing. I put a book together, and then at the very end, when, we needed those documents, and we actually did last year because my mom passed, it was very helpful and gave my father peace of mind. So a lot of adult children don't know, what can I get mom and dad? They have everything. This is a gift that is going to help everyone, not only themselves, but their parents, family members down there, just setting a good example. So if you're looking for a great gift, this is a great gift to give someone.
Yeah. And I'll also tell you that if you're doing it yourself and you're doing it with your parents, it's a way to connect. If you come to it with an air of patience, first of all, and non-judgment, and simply inquiring to know, what's their insurance. It's not the time to get mad at them for overpaying for their insurance. It's the time to just get the information, get it down. You can always gently make suggestions that maybe we should talk to or maybe I should call Verizon and see if I can get you a lower bill because I pay less than you do. And they're actually usually quite grateful if you try to help them save money as you become more intimately knowledgeable about their finances and the bills that they're paying. But if you approach it in a really positive way, it's a great way to connect and to let your parent know, I care a lot about you, and I care about you in all the big ways and all the little ways. I care about your well-being. So yeah, I highly recommend doing it that way.
Yeah.
Great idea, Barbara.
Thank you for doing what you do.
You're very welcome. We enjoy it very much. I know it seems crazy that we would enjoy all this paperwork, but we're paperwork people. What can I say?
Yeah, I recommend you very highly.
All right. Thank you so much.
We hope you enjoyed this session. If you have anything like short suggestion, thoughts, I've shared the link to our feedback form in the chat box. And lastly, mark your calendars for the next third Wednesday of the month. We'll be looking into communication and swallowing wellness, a closer look at SLP's role. So that's speech language pathologist, and what they do, in terms of enhancing the quality of communication and swallowing, particularly in the context of healthy aging and various conditions affecting this function. So registration link is down at the chat box as well. So yes, have a great day, everyone. We'll see you again next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
At Visiting Angels, we're committed to enriching the lives of elders and their significant others. Our monthly coffee chat sessions aim to make your lives easier and better by providing quality information from our expert panelists. We're here to elevate your quality of life, offer practical wisdom, and ensure you have access to valuable insights. See you again next third Wednesday of the month.